Hi, I'm Igor Sandman. I'm a pixel artist. I make a pixel art every day. Follow the Pixel Dailies on Twitter. Today the topic is bathtub. So I will paint a bathtub, right? I was thinking today I could talk about my first game. I got a lot of questions about it, so it might be a good idea to explain to you how the idea came, how it started, what kind of game it is, that kind of stuff. First, I would like to get the shape right, get this started, because as you know, talking and painting is not easy when you do both at the same time. Yeah, can use that. Maybe push it down a little. Nah. So yeah, my first game is called Guild of Darksteel. It's an adventure game. It started like a year and a half ago, something like that. And it took me a while to get to find the right game, the game that I wanted to make as my first game, because I had many ideas, and I felt the need to try different things. So I made several prototypes and ended up finding one game that was working for me, something that I thought would be worthy of spending my time on and making my first game out of it. I tried 3D games at some point, but it was a bit complicated. I felt it would be better to do something in 2D. I'm not as confident in 3D as I am in pixel art, and 3D is more complicated in terms of game development, a lot of things to keep in mind. 2D is much more simple, in my opinion at least. So yeah, I ended up doing a 2D game. The genre of the game is what's called cinematic platformer. So I don't know if you're familiar with that style. It's some sort of platformer, but it's more adventure oriented. It's a genre that I really loved when I was a kid. There aren't many games of that style, in that style. You had the first Prince of Persia, Flashback, Another World, Abe's Odyssey, and that's about it, right? Not many games in the genre. And it's a genre that I really, really liked when I was a kid. So I've always wanted to make a game in that genre. I don't know what fascinates me so much about them, because they're just adventure game, right? But there's something to them that I really enjoy. So I got inspired by mainly Flashback and Another World, my two favorite in the style. So I try to focus mainly on, as an influence, I try to focus mainly on Flashback, because it was the most polished of them all. And I decided to try and get something working with the battle system, I wanted to try something different with the battle system. It was good, but I wanted to try something else. trying to get my shadow correct. I think this is working. Yeah. So yeah, I tried to. I was inspired mainly by Flashback for the adventure part and the overall look of the game. But then I was also inspired by Vagrant Story, which was actually it could be described as a 3D cinematic platformer because it had many elements from those games, like grabbing ledges, and there's a little bit of platforming. So yeah, it's kind of close. But I was inspired by Vagrant Story for the visual, for the design, the colors, the kind of story in the world. So what else should I say about how it started? Yeah, I wanted to, as I said, I wanted to find I wanted to modify slightly the battle system from Flashback, and I tried something. Since I was inspired by Vagrant Story, I thought, why not try something a little bit inspired by RPGs. So I decided to, instead of having the adventure and the battles take place in the same kind of game environment, I tried to separate them, a bit like in Final Fantasy. You know how in Final Fantasy you walk around, talk to NPCs, and then there's a random encounter, and there you go into a new gaming environment, right? Where you start the battle. I wanted to try something like that, so yeah. So I separated adventure from battle, and I created a system that is how to explain. Well, the player as in battle. So the enemies are. It's not random encounters like in Final Fantasy. The enemies are on the map, and you see them, and when they spot you, you go into battle. Actually, I will show you the game. I have prepared a save state to show you after this is done, so I can show you how it looks really quickly. But yeah, when you enter into a battle, when the enemy spots you, you go into battle mode, and in battle mode you have two actions that you can do. You can parry and attack, and the enemies can do the same. And how the AI is thought out is the enemies are doing repeating a pattern of actions, like maybe attack, attack, block, then nothing, then block, or something like that, and they do it in a cycle. And each type of enemy has its own pattern, and you have to, as a player, you have to remember which enemy does what, so you can parry when they attack and attack when they don't block. So there's a bit of puzzle game influence in the battle system, I guess. What else could I say about it? So now I've explained to you the basic idea. Well, the story, I can talk. It's very all the decisions that I made with the game were in how to say that. The story is the game is about the story and not so much about the gameplay. That doesn't mean that the gameplay is not important. It just means that when I have a decision to make and I have to choose between gameplay and story, the story comes first because it's an adventure game. So the story is you play as an immortal. The setting is medieval fantasy, but very much on the realistic part, if you could say that. It's still fantasy, but not too much fantasy. A bit like Game of Thrones, for instance, you know, not too much fantasy. So you play as an immortal, and in that world there is a special metal called the Darksteel, which is said to have been created by one of the gods. He actually this is probably not my best pitch, all right, because I'm thinking about my pixel art at the same time. But when you forge the Darksteel into an armor and you equip it, you become immortal, but you cannot remove it. So you're doomed to fight forever, for eternity. And the god who created that metal wanted to play with the balance of power in the world, you know what I mean? He wanted to influence the humans' action. And you are one of those immortals. And you are trying to find a purpose in life, because I imagine if you were to live forever, you would change your priorities, right? You would try to find something to do with your eternity. So he's trying to find something to do with it. And mainly what he does is making sure mortals don't die. So that's basically the story in a nutshell. The development of the game was kind of a bumpy ride because it was my first game and it wasn't easy. At first I started making it alone because I knew a little bit of coding. I have a degree as a programmer, but it was like in another life 15 years ago. So I wasn't the best programmer out there. It was kind of hard for me to, to do something that works. So yeah, I started doing it on my own, and then I had to ask for help. Then it didn't work out. The guy who would help me make the code decided to drop out. I had to go back to doing it alone, and then work came, and it's not easy to work on your own. But in the end, it turned out okay. And now the game is almost finished. You'll see in a second. So yeah, right now I'm talking with various partners, I guess I should say, to figure out how to release it. But I will probably end up releasing it on my own. I have an investor on my side, a friend of mine. We're probably going to create a company and release it ourselves quite soon, I guess. I'm not in a hurry. I have all the time in the world. Doesn't matter. You know, I spent a year and a half on it, so if I had to wait another 6 months, I don't care, as long as the release is done correctly. Something bugs me with the shadows. I think I went too far, right? I should do this. I would like to try and create a drop, or maybe on the other side, so it's detached over the shadow. Yeah, it's nice. Kinda like it. Alright, so I'll center it real quick and then I'll show you my game. It's an exclusivity for you guys, because I'm not showing much of it. I used to when I started, but then I realized it was taking so much time that I couldn't keep up, and I started showing stuff, and then for 6 months I had nothing to show. I thought it would probably be wise to try and condense the things that I show. But you know, for you guys, I can make an exception. I will save this and consider it done. But now, let's see the game. I'm not sure how the sound is going to work because I didn't test it. I mean, for the recording. Hopefully it's not too loud. So you have basically a city and a dungeon underneath, a bit like in Diablo, if you will. So the city is where you talk to all the NPCs, where you get your missions, and then you go down the underground and explore the tunnels and fight enemies to accomplish your mission. And this is literally the Guild of Darksteel. This lady here is giving you your missions, and then you have access to the undergrounds through these big doors, and these kind of doors are scattered across the city, you know. All the cities are just screens put one to next to another, and then there are doors to access to the underground. I spent a lot of time on making all those screens for the cities, you know, for like working on the architecture and the background, you know, those shadows in the back, like here. Also a little bit of animation to make it lively, like the NPCs and whatnot. So you know, you come to NPCs, you can talk to them. It's kind of a bleak story. It's dark, and that's the kind of story that I like to tell. I'm not the depressed kind, but I don't know. When I create stuff, I like to explore deeper parts of my own psyche, I guess. So this is the main theme of the game is death, I guess. Since you're an immortal, I thought it would make sense. So let's go into the dungeons. So inside the dungeons, you can meet some NPCs like this guy, or this guy over here. You can climb platforms. It's not, it's not too much about platforming, but rather about exploring the environment. remember remember your way. It's a bit of a labyrinth, and then there's the fights. You see, so I'm in fight mode now. This guy's pattern is attack, attack, block, and then nothing. So I need to wait for the right time to attack. And I realized there's a bug. I should be able to enter. He should have dropped a key so I can enter, but I'm still playtesting. I'll show you another fight with this guy and then we're done. Don't want to spend too much time on this. So this is pretty much inspired by Final Fantasy, right? And I see if this guy is bugged too, because he might drop something and he's not supposed to. No, he didn't. Okay. So that's about it, right? So now, right now, what I'm doing is I'm playtesting. I need to mix the music and add a few small features, nothing too complicated. So it should be done in a rather short amount of time. Anyways, I hope you liked it. As usual, if you want me to talk about something special in the future episodes, leave a comment down below or come talk to me on social media, whatever media you like, okay? I'll see you later, bye bye.